So this keeps happening, and this keeps happening, and what do you know, this keeps happening.
It's time to stop!
How did we get here? So recently, there have been reports coming out that the fourth Tom Holland Spider-Man movie is a multiverse story. Again. After having previous iterations of him come to his universe to help him in Spider-Man No Way Home, after the MCU had fixed the issues with the character, no more Iron Boy Jr., we all thought that the next movie would be something grounded. Or at least, that's what I thought. Finally, we can go back to the original feel of Spider-Man, where he's failing to make ends meet almost all the time. Maybe we could have him team up with Daredevil, and the two could take down Kingpin. Now, I'm not saying I believe these rumors entirely, because there are several conflicting reports everywhere. But while I'm writing the script for this video, there are reports that the fourth movie is going to have Tom Holland's Spider-Man teaming up with Tom Hardy's Venom to fight, the God of Symbiotes. Now, I just want to say again that this isn't fully confirmed just yet, but I just want to outline that if it is a multiverse story, then it's just a straight up bad idea. Now listen, I'm a huge Spider-Man nerd, and Venom is my favorite Spider-Man villain. So while there's like a 20% part of me that's excited, the other 80% is entirely exhausted. Well, for one, the Venom movies are straight ass. No, like they're not good. Yeah, you can have fun with them, but me personally, I'm past that phase. Sony just doesn't know what to do with their villain franchise. Like seriously, no clue at all. So having these two franchises mixed with one actually being good and the other awful garbage, I'd say one would overpower the other. I mean, they ruined Carnage, not even giving him an R-rated film, and they're already introducing Null when Venom and Spider-Man haven't even met yet. If Null, a Thanos-level universe-ending god, ends up being a one-off villain, they're not only gonna ruin Null, it'll ruin this entire franchise. Anyways, after hearing about these several rumors circulating, I was baffled.
What did he say?
Every single piece of media you know has touched on this godforsaken, beat to death, repetitive narrative. Deadpool and Wolverine was a good film, but despite its strengths, the multiversal cameos started to get a bit much for me. Yeah, I lost it when Chris Evans showed up, or even Henry Cavill, but by the time Wesley Snipes showed up, I was like, okay, that's enough, you can stop now. Oh, there's Channing Tatum's Gambit.
I'm about to make a name for myself here.
What I'll still say though, is that this movie had a pretty emotional arc for Wolverine. Deadpool, not so much. I mean, the guy has the same goddamn arc every movie, and he just loves his girlfriend. But even with Wolverine's plot, it just seemed like a rehash of Logan. But spoilers, Logan did this plot far better. Now this brings me to the matter at hand. What makes for a good multiverse story? In my opinion, there's only been 3 good multiverse movies. That's Everything Everywhere All at Once and the Spider-Verse films. To a lesser extent, I would say No Way Home, but the other 3 are on a different level. Also, there may be 1 or 2 that I'm probably missing. Let me know in the comments. Let me just touch on the Spider-Verse movies briefly first. Aside from being a visual masterpiece, the first movie is a simple plot of how to be Spider-Man. They made Miles' arc work by utilizing the multiverse concept. Looking back now, it's insane to think about how they managed to do that. Originally, his origin isn't based on anything related to the multiverse. Yes, it was based in an alternate universe, but it didn't have a bunch of multiversal cameos coming in to help him. And while it wasn't necessary to use the multiverse, it worked spectacularly because almost each Spider-Man variant had something that captivated us to root for them. The second movie is where it gets a little bit more complicated, but showing that Miles was not supposed to be bitten by a spider, signifying that his whole existence is essentially a mistake, makes for a gut-wrenching and powerful character arc. It has that same question of what if things were different that these multiverse movies are trying to answer. This movie happened to answer that question in a far more compelling way. I'm not going to touch on this movie too much because it's part 1 of 2 and there's no concrete release date for when that's dropping. So let's go back to that main question surrounding the multiverse. What if things were different? I believe that the movie that tackles this question and the multiverse best is Everything Everywhere All at Once. This movie is a masterpiece. I don't care what anyone says, this movie is a 10 out of 10. Whenever I see people constantly saying it's overrated, that's how I know it's ridiculously good. If you disagree, that's fine. You probably watched Barbie and loved it unironically. You just don't know ball. Anyway, even though it's also a visual masterpiece and has a different take on quote-unquote meeting alternate versions of yourself, it's something else that made this movie so incredible. To simply put it, the multiverse is just a backdrop for what is essentially a movie about how a family is struggling to make ends meet. It's somehow a multiverse movie that doesn't feel like it's shoving it in your face, like Deadpool and Wolverine or No Way Home. I'd argue that even though they've got some great character development, it still features an abundance of cameos, all to say, hey guys, look, we got this guy, and this, look guys, it's the multiverse guy. Everything Everywhere All at Once doesn't have that feeling. Yeah, I know it can't feature cameos per se because it's a standalone film. The best I can put it is like a method of transportation.
What?
Everything uses the concept as a bridge, while others use it like a plane. Yeah, it's quicker and more exciting to go on a plane, I guess, but it can also lead to nausea and ears popping and sometimes just wanting it all to be over. Everything Everywhere All at Once is a movie that tackles deep emotion and deep philosophies while using the multiverse concept that neither No Way Home nor Doctor Strange ever did. But even saying that, after watching this movie, everything I see after involving the multiverse Multiverse just excited me less and less. And what helped me realize this fully is Rick and Morty of all things. Spoilers for the latest season. In season 6, it's revealed that Rick's entire reason for living is to kill an evil version of himself named Rick Prime, who killed our Rick's wife and daughter. And in the season 6 finale, we see that Rick is hard at work finding him. The show treats this event like it's going to be the next 5-season long arc, considering that's how long Evil Morty's was. But then halfway through season 7, a bombshell of an episode dropped, titled Unmortricken. This is basically a season finale. Hell, I would even call it as big as a series finale. We get Evil Morty returning sooner than expected, where he even teams up with our Rick to take down Rick Prime. Eventually, Evil Morty incapacitates Prime, leaving Rick to get his revenge. The scene is brutal. It doesn't even have music, and the voice acting is so good. And like any revenge plot, it's shown that Rick feels nothing by achieving his goal. And just as he feels empty, so does the audience. I definitely asked myself, what now? And that was exactly what the writers intended. They understood that this plot was what everyone craved. They knew that this cool-ass multiversal plot involving 2 versions of characters battling it out to the death would make fans come back every episode for God knows how long. But as soon as that is stripped away, not even a season later, what do you have? Well, the writers answered this question with a home run, and that's the actual season finale titled Fear No Mort. This episode is portrayed as a classic Rick and Morty adventure where the pair find something called the Fear Hole. You jump in, conquer your fear, and that's that. The entire episode is portrayed as though Morty has conquered his fear early on after entering the hole, and that Rick is the one who is refusing to conquer it. After Morty finally convinces him, the two go through a never-ending cycle of climbing out of the hole because they're still afraid of something. Until finally, Morty realizes what he's afraid of.
Afraid that if I jumped into a hole, you wouldn't even bother jumping in after me. You'd just stand there and watch. This entire thing has been about me. You're not even in the hole, are you? Dear God!
Morty wakes up and asks him if he's irreplaceable, and Rick just gives a backhanded answer.
I mean, define irreplaceable.
That's good. Good.
It's enough to let Morty know that he's out of the hole. When Rick wants to go in, though, Morty tells him that it's too much to bear.
Like Diane was in there.
What?
Not in a good way. Just trust me.
Rick goes to jump back in, but merely stares at the hole. He stops himself, and what is one of the best scenes in the entire show, he takes out a picture of Morty that was in his wallet and places it on the board, signifying that he finds Morty irreplaceable. It shows that he chose him over his dead wife. This episode had massive character growth for both Rick and Morty. The writers described the Rick Prime episode as what the fans wanted, but the Fear Hole episode as what the fans needed. We don't need multiversal plots. We need simple, grounded, and compelling plot lines that don't require a bunch of cameos, portals, and a plethora of illogic alternate realities vomiting all over the screen. That season finale made me realize that this oversaturation of these multiverse plots can only exhaust the audience. In fact, that goes for every single overdone gimmick. Spider-Man and even Venom don't need the multiverse. But why would studios do anything different when they're making over $1 billion over silly multiverse plot lines? I wish I could say Spider-Man 4 would be the end, but then there's Avengers Doomsday with RDJ coming back, still not a fan of the casting.
I didn't want him to come in on it. He insisted. I said, you gotta stay at home, but he doesn't listen to me. He's such a stupid son of a bitch. Oh, fuck.
Then there's Secret Wars, of which there are so many rumors circulating that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine will be leading the movie. Like, just let that sink in. Doesn't that sound like a ridiculous, almost absurd and impossible reality? Well, this isn't 2015 anymore. I'm not even a little shocked or surprised at the idea.
Oh no. Anyway, last week...
Because unfortunately, 80% of all media has touched up on the multiverse in one way or another. I remember how exciting the concept of alternate realities was growing up. I remember how excited I was when Ben 10 started gradually using it and teasing it. It would have an episode or two gradually exploring the idea, but then it became the focus in Omniverse. It didn't bother me back then. So why does the concept piss me off now? Because it's everything, everywhere, all at once.
Typing this out.
But yeah, all pieces of media has this concept in some shape or form, and unless it's done correctly and most importantly sparingly, it's extremely exhausting. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe.